Tell him about the time we faced.
All right. Well, as I remember.
At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel Evolution Show with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Straub.
And we are back. It seems to have been ages since the three of us have been on together. Sicknesses, birthdays, holidays, work, football, all sorts of different reasons and different things have got in the way over the last few weeks. But we're back as the threesome that we are. And yeah, we're gonna get back to talking some Marvel stuff today. So it's been a while. Alex, how you been? I know you're not too well at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the tail end of a sickness. Very, very happy. I mean, it's been like, I don't know, like feels like a week since I've been sick. So I'm happy to be on the tail end. I feel like $1 million in comparison to how I did like 5 days ago. So, like I'm not complaining by any means.
It's amazing. Even feeling sort of a little bit bad feels better than feeling terrible, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. Jarian, how are you?
Doing good. Just checking our streams right now. Sorry we're a little late. That's on me. Had some family stuff going on. But other than that, doing good. Just another day.
Just another day. Nothing exciting happening then.
No.
Okay. So we're a little bit late, but and not necessarily time-wise today. That's not what we mean, but we're a little bit late. We haven't recorded for a little while as the three of us. But we're going to talk about that Guardians Volume 3 trailer a little bit today. Going to break into that a little bit. And then we're going to do some catch up on some news. So we've got a few items there to talk about. But before we get there, little update on my Defenders Saga scenario. So finished watching Luke Cage. And for the first time properly, I'd say, I have seen it before, but this time was the first time properly. And I've got to say, I thought it was excellent. On a rewatch, I thought it was excellent. In fact, I don't know, am I going to be as bold to say it's maybe my favourite season of all of those so far? And that's including Daredevil season 1 and 2. I really, really enjoyed Luke Cage. I thought it was excellent.
I'm going to say something terrible here. I'm not actually sure if I ever finished it the first time. Like I watched it all the way through. I think I made it almost all the way to the end and stopped. And I think it's just not because it was good or bad or anything. It was just like, I just for some reason got busy and I don't think I remember the ending too well. So,
you know what? I reckon we was on the same sort of path because it's kind of Luke Cage. And I don't know why. This happened because I've really enjoyed watching Luke Cage this second time round. But it was Luke Cage the first time round when I was watching the Defender Saga that I kind of tailed off a little bit. And I don't quite understand now rewatching it. I don't understand why. Like I really enjoyed this. And I know I've kept saying this over and over again about how I described the Defender Saga as almost like The Wire with Marvel superheroes. And this just takes it to that level again for me. Like, it really does remind me of The Wire. Even down to a lot of the actors. Obviously, the guy that plays Pops is in The Wire. The guy that plays the lady that plays the captain before she gets sacked in it, she's from The Wire as well. There's lots of other actors that play minor parts that are in The Wire as well. And not just in that one either. There's actors and actresses in Daredevil and in Jessica Jones that are also in The Wire. But it really, really reminds me of that show. I really love the music all the way through it. I really love the sort of the conspiracy side of it as well. The sort of corruption.
Yeah,
it was really great. So I really enjoyed it, and I actually like Mike Coulter the second time that I've seen him, and the more thoroughly I think I've seen it. I think that was probably my problem with him in the first place, is that I wasn't really paying attention. This time I was paying attention, and I actually really like him.
I really like Mike Coulter as well as Luke Cage. And I know a lot of people say that he may not be like big enough to be Luke Cage because Luke Cage is, such a massive character, like physically, but like, I mean, I thought he did a great job portraying the character. I always was a fan of him in Luke Cage and in the other Netflix projects. And one of my favorite scenes out of the Defenders show was that part where Danny Rand's like, I am the immortal Iron Fist. And Mike Coulter just rolls his eyes and turns his head like, oh, dude, not again. Like, always, like, because it's kind of like that back and forth between him and Iron Fist that I always liked. And then if I remember correctly, Iron Fist did make like an appearance in the Luke Cage show, like very briefly. Like he shows up like in a barber shop or something like that. And
It must be season 2
It might.
because I haven't seen him so far. I did notice. What I am noticing is he's obviously what's her name? Rosario Dawson. She's like the sort of Phil Coulson. Her
connecting everybody.
Yeah. And what I did notice at the end of Luke Cage is she takes a tab off of a poster that's stuck on the wall, and the tab is for Colleen Wing's dojo.
Huh.
And then obviously the next time you see her in Iron Fist,
She can fight.
she's training. Well, she's training. She's training with Colleen in the dojo. That's where she meets Danny, which is exactly where I'm up to right now, which is the 4th or 5th episode of Iron Fist. And I gotta say, again, do you know what? I saw a little bits of this as well, and I'm actually quite enjoying it. And he's not as bad as I think. I'd probably got these preconceptions based on just literally what everybody had said about how terrible he was. And he's not as bad as I remember. I thought he's all right, and I quite like I don't mind his fighting style. It's a bit lazy, but it's got that kind of kung fu-esque, I'm not going to fight you type fighting style. Like it reminds me a little bit of, there's a great scene. I'm not a big fan of the movie, but the new Karate Kid with Jaden Smith. And there's a great scene where Jackie Chan manages to beat up about 5 sort of teenage kids without actually hitting any of them. He just moves out of the way. He just constantly moves out of the way, and that's what Danny seems to do in this quite a lot. He just moves out of the way really skillfully, and they all just kind of hit each other.
Have you seen the part in the show? I don't remember if it's in the first season or not, but where Iron Fist basically fights a guy that's always like drunk, and he uses like drunk martial arts against him. Basically.
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah, that's kind of how I always felt like that actor, I forget his name, that plays Danny Rand. That's how I've always felt like his like fight choreography's always been, is almost like he's like drunk when he's fighting. So in that scene, it was kind of very interesting for me to see that happen on screen, because I was like, this is strangely odd, like, but that guy could fight and everything, and yeah, it was awesome to see.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm quite enjoying it. I must say. But yeah, so I've done that, and I finished Doctor Strange, Death of Doctor Strange. I know Jarian really likes Death of Doctor Strange, but I quite enjoyed it, and I love a murder mystery, and that's exactly what it was, and it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure what to read Doctor Strange wise after this. Where does this fall? Is he still dead? Is he still dead in the comics?
I don't think they've done anything new past that run. I'll have to go check. I don't think they have. I think that's the latest run for Doctor Strange. So.
And he hasn't turned up in anything else, has he?
Not that I know of.
I'll tell you
real quick from the chat here, back on Luke Cage. RMC goes, I like Mike, room for improvement, but if he's recast, the MCU could help in areas he's lacking. He can be a little dry at times.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like sometimes he struggled to emote as well as he could have done. And actually, having said that, he had some really great lines and really great monologues in the first season of Luke Cage that I'd forgotten about. And so actually, yeah, a little bit more expression maybe could have helped.
RMC also goes, I hope they bring everyone back except Finn. LOL, he's just not good and was lazy with fight practices and scenes, which I thought as well.
I mean, is there documentation, is there actual hard evidence and people saying that he wouldn't train?
There were some reports about on-set stuff. I'm not sure what's all true, what isn't true, but there were some reports out there. So honestly, if there's smoke, there has to be some kind of fire there. So the truth's probably in the middle. They probably had differences between the fight choreography and what he wanted to do, and there probably was some headbutting, because look at Jessica Henwick. Look at her fight scenes compared to what Finn Jones were, and it's night and day difference. So there was something going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I gotta say the few that I've seen so far, the one with the guys with the hatchets in the hallway, was really cool. I've quite liked some of his fight scenes. They've had that style they've had that kung fu style where he doesn't actually fight anybody. He just moves everybody out of the way. and they all just fight each other. I quite it almost lends itself to looking lazy. That's like what you were saying, Alex. That drunken style. It's like it is an actual style, isn't it? That's what. Because am I right in thinking that kung fu was invented by a female, like an old female, because she just wanted to stop getting beaten up or something, so she just started moving other people out of the way. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a martial arts expert at all, but that was just what I assumed.
Yeah, I mean, there is martial arts that there is like power redirection and stuff like that in martial arts. So, you know, with a lot of like what he does, it makes sense. Like when he like basically throws somebody off their feet, almost using their own momentum against them. You know, like so.
Armsy also goes quite a few commenting on his refusal to practice. No idea reason behind it though. So definitely there's something going on behind the scenes. We may not know the whole truth, but like I said, you could tell the differences in certain in fight scenes. So.
I mean, from what I've gathered so far, the girl that plays Colleen Wing,
Jessica Henwick.
Right, yeah. So she's great, but at the moment, Colleen is quite angry. She's angry anyway, so her fight scenes are going to be more aggressive. You know, Finn's quite chilled out all the time. You know, when he speaks to people, he's like, "Oh, thank you so much for this conversation." He's like giving them a little flower, or you know, he's holding their hand, or you know, he's sort of touching their shoulder, and he himself, he's quite calm. She's quite angry and quite abrasive, you know, and she doesn't want to take anybody's help, and you know that, and that comes across in her fighting style. And I think Finn's attitude and his personality, as Danny Rand, comes across in his fighting style as well. That's all I've seen so far. Anyway, enough about the Defender saga. Otherwise, we can go on all night. But I'm really enjoying it, and I've cracked like you know, illness has helped a little bit, I guess, because I've not wanted to do a great deal, so I've kind of just watched a few more, you know. Either of you guys been up to anything before we get stuck into the Guardians trailer? You've been up to reading anything, watching anything different, Marvel wise or anything else wise?
So I read like some Siege this week, and I was just gonna say, you know, like I think I've seen those panels before where Sentry rips Ares in half, but like I've never actually like I don't think I've read Siege before, so. Like me going through it and like kind of like looking at it and, you know, seeing Ares being like, oh, you know, like you betrayed me, Sentry. And then he just goes rip and just rips him right in half. It's just like, that's brutal watching that, like, or seeing that, you know, like on a panel and you're like sitting there and you're looking at it and you're like, holy crap, you know, like, cause he just ripped a god in half, you know, like Sentry just literally ripped a god in half. So, yeah, I mean, that's a cool story. I also read a little bit of Marvel Zombies this week too.
Nice, yeah. That Sentry Ares scene, yeah, because everybody's like, oh, we've got Ares, you know, he'll fight him, you know, we can't fight him, but Ares is a god, you know, and then Sentry just like pop, boom, and like you said, all the other panels in the corners, they've got all the heroes just looking up, going, you know, mouth wide open, just going, wow, what's just happened? You know, we're screwed.
And Sentry's like destroying everything in those panels, you know, like all in that fight. So, I mean, he's just all over the place. I mean, he's like unstoppable. So, and I mean, he just makes light work of Ares like he's nothing. So I just love that. Panel, so.
Which makes sense though, that if the rumor does come true that Sentry is that super Superman-like person in Thunderbolts, it does kind of make sense because basically Thunderbolts are primarily of super soldiers, and Sentry is another super soldier experiment kind of gone wrong. So
yeah, that'd be interesting to see if they can portray that kind of graphic violence in that movie without, obviously, I mean, they can't. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anybody get ripped in half in a movie, but you know, could they do that somehow?
The Rock just ripped the Bach in half in Black Adam. So
that
movie, yeah. So he does the exact same thing, grabs him at the top and goes rip and rips him right down the middle. So.
I haven't said that. Obviously, Juggernaut rips Deadpool in half in Deadpool 2. Yeah, so it does happen, actually. We'll see. But if only
not like that panel. Not like that.
No,
panel.
not like that panel. Everything comes out.
I mean, there's organs everywhere and stuff like that, you know. So.
And then doesn't Null rip Sentry in half in King in Black?
I think he does.
He does. Someone gets ripped in half in King in Black. and because everyone's like, oh, that's all right, you know, it is. That's exactly what happens because everyone goes, don't worry, we'll send Sentry and he'll fight him, and then he just goes up there and Noel just plays with him, just said pulls him apart, and then everyone's doing the same sort of like, wow, you know, kind of.
Do, do you think that they'll connect if we see Sentry on screen, the Void? Do you think that the Void will be a part of that character?
Not yet.
It's going to probably take some time to kind of wheel that one out, I feel like, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's I think it plays really nicely into his character, though, doesn't it? That sort of psychotic, you know, he's sitting, because 1 minute he's sort of sitting like as a sort of slob watching a telly, the next minute he's Sentry, you know, so that whole kind of not multiple personalities thing. Well, it kind of is, isn't it? I guess.
But
So
I mean,
maybe that.
they could almost like spin that as in like they've got this super soldier serum that they've taken basically all these people who've received it before, they've optimized the super soldier serum. He gets it in his body and it causes him to go crazy, and the Void like a split personality of like him going crazy. I mean, you know.
Yeah, and I think
And-
that would be a not realistic. Nothing's realistic, is it? But that would be a real kind of way of doing it. Yeah, 100%.
Mhm. So
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And Jarian, have you been reading anything, doing anything, watching anything?
No, not really. Getting that end of year stuff in for work, so I've been kind of really busy with that.
Yeah.
So nothing new yet.
No new Lego.
Not yet, but there's some nice sets coming out in January. So I'll get those. I do a Black Panther pop-up cardboard thing here in my office now. You can't see it yet. I gotta rearrange some stuff, but got that from a friend who was giving that away. So picked it up, and that'll be part of the office decoration.
Nice.
But yeah, no new Lego yet. I have been, well, actually, no Marvel related Lego. I've been getting some of the stunts Lego because I want to kind of build like I have an idea for like a Johnny Blaze stunt set using the stunts pieces because they have the fire rings and they have all the motorcycle stuff and jumping trucks and that kind of thing. So I've been kind of slowly collecting the stunts Legos as I've seen them on sale.
Nice.
That's cool.
I've got I got a gift of the gingerbread Funkos for my birthday. So
Nice.
I've got them all set up behind me because it's Christmas. I thought,
Yeah, but Thor, Hulk, Captain America.
and an Iron Man. Yeah, they're
Iron
all up
Man.
there.
Nice.
And the Ant-Man helmet's got his reindeer antlers on because you know it's Christmas.
DC
So-
just released a bunch of those, but they released like a box set of Justice League ones, and I think it's got every member of like the main 7 of Justice League or whatever in the box. And I saw the Flash in there. I was like, man, I would actually like to have that Flash Funko, but I do not want the rest of the gingerbread.
Whatever.
Like, you know, so you know.
Nice. What should we do first? Should we talk about the Guardians trailer, or should we go into news, or do we want to sprinkle the news in with the Guardians trailer? Can that work, Jari?
I've got a couple Guardians things to start off with the news. I guess we can do that first and then do the trailer and then break off the
Yeah.
rest.
That sounds good.
Okay, so first thing, Guardians Christmas. James Gunn Twitter in response to a tweet about Bucky's arm. So that's been the controversy. How did Nebula get Bucky's arm for that present to Rocket? He says Bucky defeats Nebula. Someone goes, Bucky defeats Nebula. There's no way she stole his arm. Has no sense. Like the whole Phase 4 pure forced inclusion of shit. So James Gunn responded to that tweet out there and said, I'm not sure how a cyborg with advanced alien technology tearing off a human's arm because of an overabundance of Christmas spirit is forced inclusion, but now it's canon, sorry. He went on to further say, I'm sorry, but it already happened. Nebula thinks of Bucky as wet crepe paper. That said, she couldn't help tearing off the arm because she was just feeling so freaking Christmassy. P.S. No one forced me to include alien cyborg. So, which is interesting to say. So if that's part of the MCU now, you know, does he get a new arm in Thunderbolts? You know, do we see some change there? You know, what's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just spare parts almost. Maybe I don't know.
A spare Wakandan made vibranium arm.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
right,
I guess
okay.
Bucky's just got 2 or 3 of them just laying
Yeah,
there,
that's
you
it.
know?
Who hasn't?
Yeah.
Who hasn't got 2 or 3 of those? Yeah, okay, I get your point.
Yeah, so let's just see how they handle that with Thunderbolts, or it's just like a throwaway thing they don't come back to, kind of like the 5-year jump in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah, it is almost like, yeah. Do we just Is it a throwaway?
Yeah.
This will be a throwaway thing. I almost guarantee it. And you'll see Bucky with his arm, and nobody will say a word, and this will just be completely forgotten.
Yeah.
And
Unless it's a slightly different arm and nobody says a word.
Yeah, like when it comes with a gold arm or something like that, or something like, because
Mm.
think about it, Val wanting to get her vibranium, and there's rumor of Thunderbolts going to Savage Land and finding anti-metal, so there could be something there, maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It also could be guns, kind of last, till you go to the MCU on his way out over to DCU, since Guardians 3 will be his last project with MCU for the foreseeable future. Guardian synopsis. In Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy 3, our beloved band of misfits are looking a bit different these days. Peter Quill, still reeling from the loss of Gamora, must rally his team around him to defend the universe along with protecting one of their own. A mission that, if not completed successfully, could quite possibly lead to the end of the Guardians as we know them. Guardian ships and how much time they spent with Thor. This was some news about this. The director claimed the Benatar is in the garage and revealed their new ship, the Bowie, is much larger. He added the Guardians were only with Thor for a few weeks before embarking on a separate adventure, and claimed a long time has passed since then. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is also the first Marvel Studios movie to prominently credit its director on its official poster by prominently showing a James Gunn film. Because up until now, everything has always said a Kevin Feige production, but the Guardians poster now says a James Gunn film. So, a couple things there that kind of stand out to me. One is the Benatar still there. We saw the Bow in the Christmas special. Nowhere is now their base of operations. Pretty much Yondu purchased it from the Collector. I think it was in the Christmas special. But it's interesting to see that, what happens with this team. I think a few go their separate ways, if not seeing at least one of them die.
No, it's going to be, I reckon there's going to be more than one die. Sure.
just-
At least, I'm saying at least one, but some could go separate ways.
I just find it so weird that Yondu purchased it from the Collector or whatever, because it's like, if you're the Collector, you literally have the head of a Celestial that's like a planet for you. I mean, that's
Yep.
if there's nothing better to collect than that, I would have no clue what it would be,
Yeah,
But-
well, because think about it, because didn't the Collector pretty much get dealt with in the end or Infinity War when Thanos got the Reality Stone?
Yeah, I mean,
do,
he's
do we find his fate out?
I
No.
mean, I think it's kind of assumed that he was killed, but I mean,
Yeah.
he was killed prior to the snap. So even if when they reverse the snap, it's not I don't believe he would just come back.
Yeah, it
So-
almost makes. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, who knows? I mean, I thought he was dead up until this point, so I didn't
Yeah.
really think
Yeah.
it would make a lot
It
of
makes-
sense.
It makes more sense that they're squatting in nowhere. They kind of just inherit after what
Yeah.
happened in Infinity War and Endgame to me than them buying it.
Or it's just without a leader, and the Guardians just walk up in there and
Yeah.
hey, we're taking this over now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have made more sense. I mean, we don't find out. So what happens? The Collector, we do see him in Infinity War, but it's not really him, is it?
It's the Reality Stone scene.
Reality Stone
Mhm.
projection. And then when the sort of scene becomes real, he disappears. So we don't
Mhm.
actually see him. So the last time we've seen him is in, oh God, whenever the last time we saw him was, which was in Guardians.
When they
Yeah.
take him the Power Stone.
Yeah.
Or in What If too. I
Well,
think
yeah,
they
and
did-
what if? Yes, slightly different, but yeah. So yeah, but I don't remember him saying it was Yondu that bought it off of him. I thought they just said that it was that they bought it off of him in the Christmas.
I thought it was
special.
Yondu.
I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and check
Okay.
because I don't remember them saying it was Yondu bought them. I thought they said now that we've bought this off of the Collector, but I mean, who knows? But yeah, I don't know. So back to what we were saying about the deaths or people moving on. Yeah, I mean, it looks like Rocket's fate is nailed, doesn't it, from that trailer?
I think Rocket was my top one that I could see going. Along with us seeing a completely new team. I'm kind of 50-50 on Drax. I think Drax could find out his daughter's alive and kind of go off into the sunset with his daughter, or Drax could be
Mhm.
killed as well.
I'd quite like that. Drax sacrifices himself for his daughter because his daughter is alive. And I think it's so his daughter's Moondragon, and it just seems perfect to bring her in at the moment. It seems like that's a really ideal time to bring her into the team.
And I think if you did that too, it gives Drax like a new level of depth that I don't really think he's had in the MCU at all. Because suddenly it makes him just not just a literal character that looks at everything literally. Like he's somebody that's like he's got love for his daughter kind of type of situation, and he's going out from the MCU dying, which is, I mean, he never got revenge on Thanos for his family, which was the whole reason why he was in the MCU, was because he wanted to go at Thanos because of what he did to his family. So
I also
so
think
it would make sense that he's going out would be to save what he's left of his family.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I also think the Christmas special is kind of setting up Cosmo to be the new Rocket.
Yeah.
Or the new Groot even.
Yeah, I mean, we've
But
seen
they're-
in the trailer that Lila's coming in, haven't we? So
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's definitely, they are setting up pieces there. I don't think anything happens to Quill other than Quill kind of going off and then leaving his fate open so he can come back at any time, like Secret Wars.
I quite liked, and I still can't remember it, and I've read it, and I think it might be at the end of Infinity. I'm not sure, but when Quill and Nova, so Richard Rider, go out in like all guns blazing, they basically like sacrifice themselves as a suicide mission, and it's a brilliant scene, really great scene. It kind of fades to white afterwards, with some really good panels. Sorry if anybody's getting confused about what I'm talking about here. I am talking about comics. I say scene, but it is a great scene. So some great panels, and then the last panel is it sort of fades to white, and there's a great statue erected for Quill and Ryder. But I'd quite like to see Peter go out in a bit of a blaze of glory. Like I think that kind of that's him all over, and that's that whole kind of 80s not superhero, that 80s hero, like action hero, isn't it? Like going out in a big blaze, like big explosion behind him or something, That just screams Quill to me.
From the chat here, we're definitely losing Rocket because Gunn has been preparing us for that for a while. And Dave Bautista has been quite vocal about being tired of the Drax makeup. And I think also that Bautista's moved on to other things. But speaking of that, you mentioned Nova. I think Alex and I talked about this on the news special, I think. Even though Gunn has come out and said that Nova is not in any of his scripts for Guardians of the Galaxy, we know that Marvel does add in credit scenes. Thor: Love and Thunder, they added the whole, Thor will be back, and I think they even added the Hercules without Taika's kind of thing on it. So I wonder if we actually get a Richard Rider Nova tease in the end credit scene to kind of set him up for the new team of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I think with all that being said, just jumping back on Quill for a second here, if they have Quill die in this film and say we don't see Quill until Secret Wars, and then we see like a variant of him in Secret Wars or something, I think that's like a big missed opportunity here, because we know he's got that connection to, he's part Celestial.
Yep.
And he could be kind of like a weapon against the Celestials in the future because he's part Celestial.
Yeah.
So in the MCU. So I mean, I'm hoping that they just don't just throw that away. And I mean, especially now, him and Mantis are both Celestial. So we know that they're both part that way. So, I mean, those are two major weapons to use against the Celestials, in my opinion.
Speaking of Mantis, do you think instead of Drax's daughter, we could see Drax sacrifice himself to save Mantis, given that their arc in the MCU and even more we saw with the Christmas special with him too?
Yeah,
if we don't get Moondragon, we could see him sacrifice himself for Mantis.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a really good shout. I think as Alex was saying a minute ago, that kind of really humanizes. I know he's not a human, but it really humanizes him, doesn't it? It really gives him those emotions that he's not had. Do you know what I mean? And something's got to give him that. I mean, it would make sense to be his daughter, but it could well be Mantis 100%.
It gives him depth, because every time I've seen Drax on screen, unless he's fighting, everything he does is a joke. I mean, that's the way it's always been on screen.
Well,
so
the thing is, it's not, is it? But it is to us. It's not to him, but it is to us.
Yeah, but I mean, it's meant to be a joke, though, the way that
Yes.
it's like, delivered to us. It's meant to be a
Yes.
joke, but like, that's because like he's a literal person. Like he takes everything at face value. There is no depth to it. So to suddenly see like Drax have some sort of like depth where he's thinking that's not just
Yeah.
on face value would be a big change for his character and a great way to go out for that character.
Yep, I
Yeah.
totally agree. And it would almost be you'd feel almost extra sad for him because he kind of starts showing emotion where he never has, and
Mhm.
maybe he can't control it either. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And he's coming back on the rocket thing, and I've got where's my dog? My dog's over there somewhere. And I know that both of you guys have experienced it, very recently. And I think everybody who's ever had pets has experienced it. But with the rocket thing, I think it's going to hit double hard if they do end him here, because it will be a little bit like that losing a pet.
Well,
And
especially
that is
like
hard.
especially if they do it like he gets gravely injured and is alive for a while in the film and then has like a dramatic death scene where he goes out just barely fighting to survive or something, you know what I'm saying? Like that would kind of hit a little bit hard because it's almost like a person, that's dying, but also like animal
Yeah.
abuse at the same time. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be rough on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think they show in the trailer, he's laying on that bed, and I think that's when he's talking about all flying away in a ship one last time, and then you see Quill and Mantis both sort of really, really emotional. So,
Mhm,
I mean, what's going to spark those kind of emotions in Quill and Mantis?
mhm.
Speaking of that
knows?
too, we also get a scene in their classic uniforms
Yeah,
as well. The nice dark blue, navy bluish uniforms. So they're doing some stuff there to the comics. But one thing was also we see Gamora with the Ravengers.
Mm.
I think I read somewhere that she's now in charge of the Ravengers, and so I wonder how that transition goes from her to Kraglin, or from Kraglin
Yeah.
to her.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that
she
was interesting
obviously
too.
gets lost, and she still doesn't really know who she is, does she? I mean, as far as we're concerned, she's still the same. She's still the Gamora that we saw at the beginning of Guardians 1.
And
That's who she is.
weren't the Guardians dressed up like the Ravagers in the Thor movie? I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, like, one of the Funkos says Ravager Thor or Thor in Ravager costume or something
Yep.
like that. You know what I'm saying? So that might be kind of a weird kind of transition there because it almost seems like they brought that in only in Thor, and then the Guardians 3 isn't even going to go and really touch on that. So
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that all fits together. Kraglin leaving, Gamora coming in, taking over, and all of that kind of stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, on the uniforms, Joe, I thought Quill looked great. I thought he
Mhm.
looks really good. It really suits him, actually. That blue.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really interested to see what they do with the Soul Stone that's going to be in Adam Warlock's.
Is it the Soul
Yeah.
Stone though?
I mean,
What is
well, I
it?
mean,
Yeah.
not the Soul Stone, but you know
What
what I'm
it
saying,
is.
like the replacement for the Soul Stone. I almost feel like that's going to be just like a control device that's just like meant to control him
Yeah.
and kind of point him in a direction, be like, Adam, do this, and then Adam does that. And
Yeah, it kind of glows every time he gets like an instruction.
Yep.
Almost.
Mhm.
He's like
From the Sovereign.
yeah,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
and
I thought he
Peter will
looked good
probably
as
knock
well.
it off or something, and
Yeah,
he'll
yeah.
break free of the trance or whatever.
But
Little
I
bit sort
wonder.
of inhibitor chip from
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
Doc Ock's inhibitor chip.
I wonder how they are going to explain his powers though, or if he's going to have any powers in this film.
Yeah,
Other
I
than
mean,
being
we
more
need to
like
go-
other than going after them, is he gonna have the same power set or a similar power set to the comics, or how they're gonna explain that since the Soul Stone is gone? Unless
mhm,
they're gonna play it in a way, because we know that the Soul Stones aren't completely gone. They've kind of gone off. We know in the comics they kind of became physical embodiments within people.
mhm.
So
Mm.
I wonder if one way they'll explain it that the Soul Stone came to him once it was destroyed. It kind of became the physical embodiment. That's maybe the last piece that kind of brings him alive. They could do it that
Yeah,
way, but
gotcha, yeah.
yeah, but again, why even go back to anything with the Infinity Stone since they've kind of already gone down that path?
Seems like a big
Yeah, I think-
U-turn there.
Yeah, I think they can get around without doing that, to be honest. But I thought he looked great. I thought Will Poulter looked really good in those couple of scenes that we saw, and I love the little nod to his skull that he had
Yeah.
on his original, the sort of brooch thing that held his cape on. I thought that was really cool. I noticed that and thought that looked really cool. But I thought he looked great.
Mhm.
Looking forward
as,
to seeing more of him.
as far as team members we think are safe, we think is going to be safe after this film, I'm leaning towards Nebula, Mantis, and Groot.
Yep.
Being safe ones, with Cosmo joining the team, possibly Gamora joining the team, and then a surprise person joining the team, or getting Richard Rider teased at the end is my guess as far as the
I
new
reckon
team
we,
lineup.
I reckon we might see the end of Gamora again. I
Which-
know
yeah.
I know would they kill her twice, but yeah, I think they probably would.
Also, I know that Zoe Sandala has been kind of vocal
Stuff.
about how much stuff she's put into these films between this and Avatar over the years, so
Mhm.
she might want to move on from the role too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Nebula's safe. I think Groot being like a mostly CGI character, he's gonna be always there, like Groot will be one of those characters they'll be making like, movies 10, 20 years from now and they'll still be Groot.
He's a Wookiee.
Yeah.
You know something I thought was interesting about Groot? I wonder how old he was in the first Guardians.
Mhm.
Because if you look at him now, they've got that, obviously it's taken however many years. I don't know how many years is that, probably since 2012, no, 2013, 14, 2014.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
2014, maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's sort of 11 years it's taken him to get to this point now, 11, 12 years to get to where he is now and how he looks now. And he
Mhm.
looks like a sort of early 20s sort of meathead, doesn't he, from the
Mhm.
gym? That's what he looks like. He's got that sort of buff look about him, but he's still quite a little bit baby faced, but he's kind of, you can tell he's a sort of a man now, So I wonder how old he was. When you look at his face, it was all sort of gruff and,
Yep.
He looks really
Weathered.
old in Guardians. Yeah, really weathered. Yeah, good word
Mhm.
considering he's a tree. But yeah, I thought that looked really. I thought it was interesting to wonder how old he was in Guardians 1, because obviously he just keeps recycling. He just grows again, doesn't he? So yeah, I think he's safe, surely.
I feel like we actually might have Mantis' life be in jeopardy in this film. Just for the simple fact of, like, at the end of that Guardians special, it almost seems like they kind of threw that connection in there at the last moment of Peter and her being brother and sister. And I was just like, after like watching that, I was kind of like sitting there thinking about it. And I was like, that was awfully like kind of like not like forced in there, but you didn't really have to do that. I mean, like, and I
Yeah,
wonder
I know
why
what
they did that. Like, it almost feels like I'm getting a wind up here, like something's about to hurt, like,
Yeah.
That whole Guardian special was like that, though. To be totally honest,
yeah.
it was the whole thing was like they're just sort of, like you say, turning the cogs just so that it hurts extra
Mhm.
when 1 or 2, 3 of them die. Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Speaking, you mentioned Lila earlier. I wonder if that's a flashback scene with Lila because we know that we see Rocket as a little raccoon, younger days, probably before he was experimented on by the High Evolutionary, because the High Evolutionary is wanting to do all this stuff on him. The High Evolutionary is probably going to be the main villain of this film, with Adam Warlock being evil for part of it, but I think by the end, that's why I think Adam Warlock could also possibly be on the Guardians team in the future, possibly
Mhm.
after
Yeah.
this film. Like, there's going to be some kind of turn in this film, like you said, maybe an inhibitor chip or something to where he breaks free of the Sovereign's control, or kind of finds out, hey, something else is going on here. But I wonder if that whole Lila scene was a flashback to before Rocket kind of broke away from High Evolutionary and kind of went out on his own and found Groot.
I mean, and they could always do this thing too, where they have the Sovereign basically like try and make Adam Warlock and then have an issue and say, all right, we need to pull in like a specialist. Let's go get the High Evolutionary to help us make Adam Warlock. So then Adam Warlock kind of has ties to the High Evolutionary again there. And then you kind of end up with this dual kind of force like fight against the High Evolutionary, where both Adam Warlock and Rocket both have a connection here, where they're not happy that they've both been used as tools for somebody else and been created to be somebody else's weapon or servant or pilot for their ship or whatever, and go full force back if they choose to do that way.
And speaking of that too, I think it's a great point, Alex, that tying that to the High Evolutionary to finish that off. I almost wonder if those batteries that the Sovereign was after Rocket kind of stole them, and that's got them into the whole thing with the Sovereign. They have some advanced technology. So is it those batteries or something else they have that they can give to the High Evolutionary is how they explain Adam Warlock's powers. Since I hope they don't go back to the Soulstone route. They could explain it
Yeah.
away, like they have some kind of something with their batteries, some other technology they have combined with the high evolutionary, they could kind of explain that way of how Adam has his powers.
Yeah, sure. I'm a lot more excited for this now than I was before it. The trailer's done the job, and I'm still excited for Quantum Mania. But that trailer, I'm not saying it was a bad trailer at all. That's not what I'm saying. But for me, it didn't get me any more excited for Quantum Mania than I was already before. Where this has got me more excited for Guardians 3 than I was before. Does that make sense?
It does, but them doing that that kind of anthology of Ant-Man, that whole dedication to him at the Brazil or whatever it was, I can't remember the name of the conference.
Yeah, the Brazil Comic Con. Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
the Brazil Con, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think them doing that dedication thing and showing the history of Ant, that kind of got me more pumped for Quantum Mania, because the whole time in the MCU, Ant-Man's kind of been the key to everything. Look at look at how they won an Infinity War or an Endgame. You know, the Quantum Realm's been a big piece of that. Ant-Man's been all part of that. So I'm getting more excited for Quantum Mania just because they're putting more chips on the table, it seems like, for Ant-Man and Scott Lang.
Which, you know, it's funny that they've done that with Ant-Man, because Ant-Man's kind of been mostly like a comedic character, but he always seems to be like the glue that's
So
kind of
important.
like, yeah, exactly. Like, and I can't but think that all those references that we saw in Miss Marvel and her looking at like her bracelet bangle thing and saying quantum and things like that doesn't mean that, you know, there's a reason for all that. Like, I continue to think that he's going to basically bring a lot of this stuff together. He's going to probably, just like what they did in Endgame, probably like somehow be responsible for Kang way down the line using Pym particles to, you know, travel the multiverse or something. I mean, you never know, but
Yeah, I mean, that kind of was the key to that, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The Pym particles were the key to the time travel thing.
But I mean, Kang could very well use some sort of other technology that he figures out to travel the multiverse. It doesn't have to rely on Pym particles, but I think if they chose to do that, that would be a really cool tie, because it would be like one of those things where it'd be like, yeah, because of Hank Pym and Scott Lang, this is why I have the technology and I've conquered, you know, it all. And you're like, oh, wow. And now that we have seen Kang and Scott Lang in the third movie in the trailer, we know that there's going to be a connection there. And we know that Scott's stealing something for him. So it'll be really interesting to see what that is and how that plays into all that.
Yeah, sure. We went off on a Quantum Mania tangent there.
Sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. But yeah, I mean, Guardians looks good. I'm looking forward to it. I have to wait till May to see the outcome of that one. Should we jump into some other news?
Yeah, Daredevil news. They added Michael Gandolfini to the cast in a major role. His character is described as an ambitious and earnest risk taker with a very Staten Island-esque persona. Marvel Studios has reportedly included options for future seasons of Born Again in his contract. This almost sounds like Wilson Fisk's son, possibly. Maybe like a mafioso type in the series, but knowing that, you know, that his contract includes options for future seasons, it also goes to say that there is some more news about that Daredevil is going to get more seasons as well. There's been some rumbling of that also. So
that's good.
I've got a feeling that it's going to. I don't reckon they're going to get 18 episodes out of it. You know, I reckon they'll shorten it. I really do.
You think so?
Yeah,
and break it 3 parts. I'm telling you, six episodes and 3 parts.
Yeah. I just think that
I'm sorry, 18 episodes and 3 parts being 6 episodes. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think 18 episode block. I don't know whether they're going to do that.
I almost feel like they did that just off the popularity of the Netflix show.
Yeah. It was almost like, let's say this, because they can change anything. They can say whatever they want whenever they want to say it. Really, can't they? They're not holding promises to anybody. They're just saying, yeah, we're going to do this. They can come out later on and say, actually, look, we looked at it and this isn't going to work. We're going to do it like this instead.
But if they're giving Gandolfini options for future seasons, you know, they could just be, you know, because Daredevil can cross over into so many things. Spider-Man, Deadpool, you know, you name it. You know, they could get into Defender stuff again. They could do all kinds of stuff with Daredevil by crossing things over. So
and if he was so in the Devil's Reign, which is where I think I know it's called Born Again, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be tied to the Born Again story. I think it might be tied more closely to the Devil's Reign story. And Butch plays Kingpin's son, Wilson Fisk's son. Butch plays quite a big part in that. He's the new Kingpin, basically.
Yep.
And I mean, characters like Matt Murdock too, they're kind of double pronged because like you can kind of use him to like connect a lot of street level characters that are just like out there fighting on the streets, like, you know, just heroes, like local little like small time guys, like not really like out there. But then you can also have him go sit in court and defend somebody who's a superhero too, like he did in No Way Home. So I mean, he's got a lot of options. They can have him pop up everywhere.
And speaking of your thought and the whole, Devil's Reign thing, if they do make Kingpin in the series the mayor of New York, Fisk is the mayor, that his son could be the new Kingpin, kind of thing, and doing the nefarious stuff all behind the scenes as the new Kingpin. So they could go other ways with this, and also too, they could set up for the future in case D'Onofrio does not want to continue to play Fisk for a long time. They could kind of transition that to Gandolfini as well for the future.
They could almost have his son like be the front of the entire operation, and Kingpin like pulling the strings and the puppet master in the background, and you never even see Kingpin until like the final episodes, and he'll be like, I'm responsible for all this. This is what I want,
More news. Go ahead, Andy. Yeah, you're about to go with the thought.
Well, I think
is
we lost.
your audio still there? Can't hear you. Did you click the thing again?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Again. Yeah, I'm back. There's a little remote on the end of this, and I step on it every now and again. So, no, crack on.
Okay. The other news in this rumor, White Tiger is rumored to play a major role in the series, and we keep getting more and more White Tiger stuff, news about this and rumors. So it does sound like White Tiger will be introduced and is playing a major role in the series. So.
Did I hear Jenna Ortega?
There's been rumors about that, and she's denied it. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
She was fantastic in Wednesday, by the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's been the one. Fantastic. All the chatter's been around her playing White Tiger in the MCU.
Yeah, and I guess that she would come in maybe the same age as Peter Parker.
They'd have to make her that kind of age to kind of, hopefully cross over into Spider-Man and become an ally of his. Maybe he's a mentor to her. So.
Which, I mean, that's a mantle. It's passed down. Like, I think her father was the White Tiger, and like her grandfather would be like the White Tiger or something, she's a good actress though. She was in You as well. I don't know if you've seen that, but Netflix show. But yeah, she was in, I think, season 3 maybe. But yeah, she's a phenomenal actress.
Yeah, she's good. I think I'm sure you've mentioned this before, Alex. It might have been you, Joan, because I know you like your animated stuff. But I do quite like the idea in the Spider-Man world that they go down that route of the animated show where they had that little team. So there was him, there was White Tiger, I'm sure there was Danny Rand.
Kazar, Zabu was on there. They had Amadeus Cho as Iron Spider. Yeah.
So I quite like the idea that he puts together. It's not necessarily a young. I suppose they're young adults.
It's a Shield thing. He's doing it's a Shield team, but they're all kind of like teenagers.
Yeah. It's like they're like recruits, and they're like, "Hey, Spider-Man, like you need to learn how to like kind of like rein in all this property damage that you do whenever you're like fighting villains, and while you're kind of being directed by us, we want you to also take these other young heroes that are kind of like you, but just a little bit worse off and can't work together." And all y'all fight together, kind of type of thing.
Which speaking of Luke Cage, that'd be a good way to bring a young Luke Cage in, because he was with Power Man, not Luke Cage, but they called him Power Man on that team. But they also did have after a while, Cloak and Dagger became on their team as well, because that's when there was 2 things with Cloak and Dagger in that series. One was with Taskmaster, was trying to do like an evil team and recruited them. The other was they had a Doctor Strange interaction where Spider-Man wore the cloak and was kind of like the Spider Sorcerer Supreme, because Cloak was being taken over by Dormammu in the Dark Dimension, which could cross over into the next Doctor Strange 2 as well, if they wanted to go that route. Sorry, I was going off on a tangent there.
No. Yeah, Cloaky is awesome.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah, I
those
love that
visuals, of,
character.
those panels that you see where it's like
Yep.
that, and somebody like Cap just turns around and goes, "Cloak, get us in there" or something. It's just that's great. I love that.
Yeah, and if they work out the deals with Sony, they could go that young route with Spider-Man kind of being the leader of those younger generation of people. Maybe even if one thing they could also do, since we saw America Chavez at the end of Multiverse of Madness, she could possibly take over as the Cloak role for a little bit. But I do think they need to bring in Cloak and Dagger at some point for a young team.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know whether I'd want to see a whole team or whether I'd want to just see like
Just interactions.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, like when you was just describing what that cartoon was about, Alex, which I already knew, but when you was describing it, I sat there and thought that sounds excellent for a children's cartoon. That sounds ridiculous for a live action MCU. Like that shouldn't really happen.
I
Do you
can
know
see
what
a
I
Disney,
mean?
I could see a Disney Plus series, like an episode each of ones with Cloak and Dagger, ones with Power Man, ones with White Tiger, ones with another one. At the end, they kind of all come together for some threat for like a series finale. I could see
maybe
that as a
like
Disney Plus
that.
show. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe like that, but not like Spider-Man. You're barely, you're struggling with your own identity issues and your own sort of problems and your own money worries and all of these other things. You're just going to be the leader of this random group of heroes. Like,
Yeah,
something that works.
Yeah,
in the
I don't
whole
think
world.
like a leader. They'll do the exact same way. They can make it interactions and kind of team ups because he's on his own now, right? No one knows who Peter Parker is. They know there's a Spider-Man there, but he's on his own. So think about it as he goes forward. He comes across White Tiger. He comes across Iron Fist. He comes across Power Man. He comes across, maybe even Zabu and Kazar at some point. He comes across all these things, and they have to kind of team up at some point.
Yeah.
And Sam Alexander's Nova was in that show,
Yes,
and
you're
I
right.
always thought that Nova was kind of like a weird kind of like addition to that group because like a lot of those characters were like, kind of like Spider-Man's kind of like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and the other ones are kind of like on the ground characters. And Nova's kind of like the one character that's like got like outer space kind of like ties. That always seemed kind of odd to me, but I mean, like you could totally. I don't think that they could necessarily do just one Nova and then be like, hey, we got Richard Rider over here. We're going to have Sam Alexander coming too. And I don't think anybody would be like really upset about that, having two Novas.
Yeah, a Young Street level one and a Cosmic level one.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it's great if they didn't know each other, but Sam kind of knew. Do you know what I mean? He kind of knew that the Novas were something different, and then Ryder turns up, and Sam's like, he's a bit starstruck by a proper Nova.
Yep,
exactly.
More news on Daredevil. Charlie Cox and what he thinks Daredevil should do next. I think because of the tone of our show, I think there's a place for Daredevil to show up in Deadpool. It would be really cool. So, they also added more to cast. Margarita LaViva and Sandrine Holt in major roles. One could be Vanessa possibly for the series. The one could be Jesson Hone, which is the Madripoor Queenpin possibly. It gets some Madripoor ties. There was some chatter. I'm not sure if this was joking or what, but the Foggy role could be a gender switch possibly in this series. So that too as well. But here's the interesting one that I found out. Manny Jacinto, who played Fritz in Top Gun Maverick, has reportedly turned down a major role in Daredevil. And I'm just like, okay, looking at him, thinking of who they could do, this could be an Iron Fist role that he turned down. And maybe he turned down because of Iron Fist on Netflix, but not as Danny Rand, Lin Lai. Because looking at him, kind of looking at Lin Lai, the new Iron Fist, this could have been an Iron Fist role. I'm just guessing here. There's no reports, but I'm clearly thinking it was an Iron Fist role. People say blind spot, but I don't think Manny Jacinto looks like a blind spot, But I think he could pull off a Lin Lai.
I mean, I feel like Blind Spot would be kind of like a really deep pool that like a lot of people probably, either one, I guess, would be kind of like, because the other is the newer Iron Fist. So, I mean, he's like not as well known. So I don't know, to be honest there.
So
yeah, I think if it's going to be a major role, would they make a major role a deep pool? Does that make? Do you see what I'm saying?
That's why I really thought Iron Fist, and a different Iron Fist, not Danny Rand, because everyone knows Iron Fist, but they may not know Lin Lai is the new one or another Iron Fist. I don't recognize no other names Iron Fist, but It could even Davos maybe, you
Mhm.
know, as Davos role possibly as well. So
And for the majority of people that watch the Iron Fist show, I mean, they watched one season where the Iron Fist ability is literally transferred from like
Yep.
person to person. It just jumps from person to person. So wouldn't be surprising to see anybody else with the Iron Fist, to be
Yeah.
honest.
yeah.
You know?
Ironheart news. Dominique Thorne on Riri post Wakanda Forever. She said, and we're also getting to see her in her element, which is quite literally the opposite of what we saw her in Wakanda Forever. We'll get some more time to see what other colors are, and to see how she leads her life rather than how she is when life is leading her. Is that interesting? I think we're going to probably go deep cut, Ironheart. We're going to see her doing more builds. We only got her and her lab. We only got a fraction. We saw the Stark Industry stuff. We saw her own suit made. I think we're going to go, full on, because we know she doesn't have the Wakanda suit anymore. That stayed in Wakanda. So we know that she's going to go full on Riri and, build her proper Ironheart suit in this series.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think we're gonna get that more comic streamlined suit where it's like more thin. It's
Yep.
more like, I guess like more sleek is the word I'm
less
looking
Power
for.
Ranger.
Yeah, because like I mean the suit. I love the Funko for that suit. The Funko
Yeah.
looks great. I actually like the Funko more than I like the suit in the movie. But like the suit like didn't look bad. It was just like really bulky. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
like
she looked like Baymax.
yeah. Yeah, like and
And
I mean
I was like, that's weird. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
bulky, wasn't it? It wasn't. Yeah, like, just streamlined or
And I think that was on purpose. They did that because if you think about it,
an evolution.
there also was some renderings and other things they had of her suit for Wakanda Forever, and it was a sleeker, trimmer suit. It looked more like her comic book accurate suit. So I'm thinking that they made her more bulky in Wakanda Forever, not to overshadow what she does in her own series,
Yeah,
and not to
okay.
have two suits look the exact same.
Yeah, okay.
And I felt like it was also one of those things too, like the suit that we see her fly in that she says that she's been seen on YouTube videos and stuff. That's kind of like her Mark 1.
Yep,
And
exactly.
then that suit that she gets in Wakanda is kind of like the Mark 2 for her. It's like that version of that suit, but like finished almost, like, and like capable of like actually
Yeah.
like it's like when Tony takes that first flight, like with his like full like Mark 2 almost.
Yep.
That's kind of what
The
that
silver
is.
suit.
Yeah.
I like
so-
what you said there. Actually, like that Wakandan suit is kind of the evolution of that first suit.
Mhm.
Like it, like you said, that's what she would have made if she could have made anything. But actually, that's not what her suit's going to be in a show. Yeah.
Definitely.
Moving on to Scarlet Witch. Rumor is the Scarlet Witch will appear in at least one episode of Agatha Coven of Chaos in a pivotal role and will likely appear in Vision Quest. So I wonder if this is a flashback or if something happens when we saw Mount Wundagore get collapsed and that's what kind of frees Agatha and then we see some kind of scene related to that. But it says a pivotal role in the series, so something to keep an eye on. If I'm betting, it's going to be the first episode going to Agatha getting back to herself. Tied.
Mhm.
That's my
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Wanda, like bringing down Mount Wundagore, is gonna be her releasing Agatha because, like, she's probably gonna be like,
Yeah.
who knows? I mean, Wanda's probably like somehow they're gonna say that her just being Wanda has been keeping up the spell on Agatha,
Yeah.
and then her being knocked out or killed or whatever you want to believe. Wakes up, doesn't remember who she is. She's not going to be able to do that because she doesn't even remember who Agatha is, type of thing. So,
Yeah.
Man, I hope that we get that scene of Doom ride on a bear and has her later cross the bear like he saved her or found her. I would love to see that scene in the MCU.
Can you imagine
Mhm.
if they? Can you imagine if they opened Agatha with that?
Yeah.
That's how they open Agatha. It's just a snowy scene, and then you just see a bear, and just see like a hand lifting.
Her
You know.
pulling her from the rubble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't see much. Just a bit of a green cloak off the arm, like a metal arm, and just puts her over, and that's it. That's all you see.
Marvel
that's-
needs to do more stuff like that in these shows and movies because, like, that would be just like everybody would go nuts.
Yep.
To do
Exactly.
like if that happened, like just because they saw a metal arm in part of the green
Yeah.
cloak, you know, like
And still show the bear scene too, but kind of make it so you can't see like a cloak and you can't
Yeah,
really see
you
the
can't
figure.
see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, just like a tease,
yeah, like and
That's That's
Yeah.
how Agatha starts.
Yeah.
You just see like a man in a green cloak like bent over from behind, just
Yeah.
like digging through rubble, and then he reaches through and pulls up Wanda, and then that's it. Boom.
Rides off
Yeah.
on a
And then-
bear.
Yeah.
And then it says Agatha covered with chaos. And
Yes.
then you just-
Yeah, it kind of
You
had
go
like that intro wording to what was one of the earlier movies. I think it was like Phase 1 or 2 where they kind of did that, or was it like one of the Captain America movies they did that with Civil War, or was it Winter
Go on, what is
Soldier?
it-
Well, they
what-
kind of did that music and the title thing came in, and they went back into the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of that style.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. Like
Mhm.
I like that idea though. I like those sort of cryptic opening scenes.
Mhm.
The rumor also says that she will also return for Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. So,
Yeah, makes sense.
but the bad news is there are no plans for a Scarlet Witch solo movie. Also, the rumor states that was out there for a while. That sounded like that might have been shelved.
For me, that's not bad news.
Mhm.
I'm not overly bothered about that. I'm quite pleased. We've seen a lot of Wanda, haven't we, in this phase? Really.
Mhm.
I mean,
And
to
we've
be
seen a
honest, that's-
variant of her.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. We've seen a lot of her since she came in. We've
Mhm.
seen a lot of her.
Yeah.
You know, she took a lot of time up in Age of Ultron. She not that I'm bothered. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she took a lot of time. I'm sorry. That sounds like I'm moaning. I'm not. That's not what I mean. But she did get a lot of time in that movie. She got a lot of time in
Civil War.
Civil War as well. You know, there was
Mhm.
a whole bit. The whole bit was about her, really, wasn't it?
Mhm.
You know, there was, and so was Infinity War. That was a lot about her as well, and Vision. Obviously, Endgame didn't see her as much, but you know, when she did turn up in Endgame, it was huge when she
Yeah,
turned up.
she
and
was a
had-
presence.
She had a big moment, and you know, so
Yeah.
yeah, and obviously the WandaVision thing, she kicked off the whole Disney Plus stuff. So
Yep.
she was a huge part in Multiverse of Madness. So we've seen her a lot, you know.
Yeah,
Definitely.
kind of. I'd love to see more of her, but kind of shift to other characters and give them
Yeah.
light for a while.
True.
Quantumania time. Kevin Feige on Quantumania. He reiterates the film kicks off the epic Phase 5 of the MCU, and he can't wait to see how audience will react to this film. React how this film affects the MCU going forward. Peyton Reed says King the Conqueror is bigger threat than Thanos in Quantumania. He's a very, very scary character to deal with. So they're
Yeah.
raising the stakes on Quantumania.
I saw an advert for whiskey with Jonathan Majors in it the other day, and he just comes across as one of those guys who just has presence. He's just got presence. He was in
Yeah.
a bloody whiskey advert, and I was like, it's Kang. And then I just watching his whiskey advert, but you're hanging on every word that he's saying in a whiskey advert. So I can't wait to see Quantumania for that reason. And that kind of, you know, like you said, he's a bigger threat than Thanos. Like sometimes when you can hang on someone's every word, or they've got you, you know, you're like, yeah, okay, you're the alpha in this room. Do you know what I mean? When somebody walks into a room and they just start talking and everyone's like, I'm just going to listen to this person. Like, it doesn't matter. You're like, yep, alpha.
Did
Well,
you watch the Creed, the new Creed movie trip?
I hadn't seen it, no.
You got to watch that because I'm stoked for that. I'm kind of sad that he's not tied to Clubber Lang somehow. You know, kind of they've kind of gone through the old Rocky characters, but I hope that I think he's still gonna look good in that movie. The trailer, his presence in the trailer just killed it. So
I'll have a look.
And I love Kang because I think the beauty in Kang too is he can literally just pop up anywhere. You know, like you can defeat Kang and another version of him will pop up like a year from now and you'll be like, how is he here right now? Like, you know, like, and it just happens. And then the other side of that coin is he's just a man. He's a man that did all this, you know, like, and he's just a normal human. He has no abilities, but he builds all this tech and he can do this with just his intelligence. And
Yeah, he's like an ever villain.
mhm.
He's
So-
an ever villain. Yeah.
Loki news. Kitty Dickey has joined the cast of Loki season 2. Her character is unknown, but she'll be playing a villain. Also sounds like a big villain for season 2.
Mhm.
So, K.A. Kwan is playing Mr. Oberowis, one of a group of clones, TVA employees that included Mobius in Mobius. So he's not playing Mr. Glyphon like I thought he might be, but he's actually going to be a TVA employee on the lines of Mobius as well.
Mhm.
Gugu Mbatha Raw, who plays Ravana, he talked about season 2. She said it's been amazing to shoot the second season of Loki. Fans are going to be in for a real treat because the show is bolder and more surreal, and in many ways goes to some bigger, bolder places than season 1, which is really exciting.
That is exciting because
Yeah.
just
She's in
saying
it.
that, well, she is in it. Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
But I mean, like, she leaves in the last season and she's like, I'm going to find free will, and
Yep.
leaves. So, like, nobody really knew if she was going to come back, if she was going to be in season 2. So, I mean, she was up to something when she left and said, I'm
Mm.
going in search of free will,
And who was she
Like,
talking to? Who's she communicating with?
Yeah.
So did she go to actually? Do we see her in Quantumania possibly pop up? Was she
Mhm.
actually talking to the king that's in Quantumania, that variant, or who was she talking to? So
Mhm.
interesting to see.
Yeah.
Feig is teasing more mutants soon. It kind of sounded like he was. I'm not sure. But here's what he said. He said, "No, look, we're already met a few. There's a mutant named Namor that you might met recently, so more to come." So I don't know what that really means. It's kind of a
It's just ambiguous, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
open-ended kind of, yeah, there's more mutants on the verge. Yeah. When?
Yeah, it's kind of
Right.
up for interpretation. Exactly. Remember our talk about quantity over quality?
Mhm.
So Marvel Studios is reportedly reevaluating the MCU's Phase 5 and 6 slate with quality over quantity, following internal feedback about Phase 4. Projects in post-production are still set for release at this time. Other projects being evaluated, special presentations, or a promising format going forward. Now, I don't understand this whole thing about Phase 4 again, because two things happened in Phase 4. We had Disney Plus launch, which gave us, a lot more content than what we're used to with Disney movies. We also went through a pandemic, which caused all kinds of issues with castings. Because we were supposed to get Balder the Brave as Daniel Craig at one point in Multiverse of Madness. So, COVID caused problems with scheduling. It caused problems with castings. It caused problems in the VFX industry. I don't think they really need to reevaluate the quality over quantity. I think they're doing just fine. Yes, they could do some things better, but they're still miles ahead of anything else out there for the content they're pushing out.
Yeah, I've seen this rumor, whatever you want to call it. I've seen it around a little bit, and I'm not sure whether I believe it or not, to be totally honest. And I would imagine that the projects, quote unquote, that they're going to get rid of are all the ones that are rumored,
Yep.
because it's like these people that are spouting this rubbish. They rumor these shows, then they rumor the fact that there's quality over quantity, and then they've cut all these shows, and they were
Yep.
never shows in the first place. Nobody ever said that these were going to happen in the first place. But then these people that say this news, they can turn around and go, "Oh yeah, they've scrapped. I don't know, they've scrapped Nova. They've scrapped these other ones. All these other ones that haven't actually been announced yet. They've scrapped them. They never announced them in the first place."
It's like it makes a headline, then it trashes the headline, and then after it does that, then they have to loop back to fix said headline. So then they say, like, "Oh, looks like they're going to close this, and you'll never see it." Yeah.
And then they're like, "We were right." And you're like,
Yeah.
"No, you just completely made a story up, like from start to finish." And everyone went, "Okay, yeah."
The only
know,
factor
okay.
here that I consider, though, that could be a real factor in changing how they go Phase 5 and forward is that Chapek is out, Iger's back in. They've
is that?
changed some people in top positions at Disney. Marvel seems to be okay. But also, too, I've heard some rumblings that Iger might be more of TVMA type stuff as well, whether it's cartoons or live action. So they could be reevaluating the slate with the change of CEOs also. That's the only factor
Cool.
I see here as a true thing. Everything else is probably just noise.
Yeah.
Probably.
Armor Wars news. A rumor started circulating that Schwarzenegger. Okay, last summer, a rumor started circulating that Arnold Schwarzenegger would play the villain known as Titanium Man in the upcoming Armor Wars movie. During an interview on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Jimmy Kimmel asked Don Cheadle about the rumors that Schwarzenegger is set to appear in the MCU as Titanium Man. The actor was confused by the question and even thought it was a joke at first. Don Cheadle claimed he had never even heard of Titanium Man before. Bringing it back to Schwarzenegger, Cheadle stated, "No, I don't know about that. I'll ask him next time I see him," which kind of doesn't help things. That last part about "I'll ask him next time I see him." Maybe they're friends. I don't know, but I don't think they've been in any movies together. I don't think they have been. or they run the same circles possibly. But that last part, because is Titanium Man possibly one of the villains? He's basically like a Russian Iron Man.
Mhm.
I
Which
thought
I
you was
mean,
gonna say
Crimson Dynamo is kind of like
Yeah.
that too. So
Yeah.
you know,
Was he
like,
Russian or somebody another? But he's like an Iron Man, another like a European Iron Man. Was it Russian or something else? Because Russian was Crimson Dynamo, but I know Titanium Man is kind of like an obscure character, if I remember correctly, who is like a European style Iron Man.
He had a big green suit, didn't he?
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
Was he
thought you
Russian?
said when you said Don Cheadle didn't had never even I thought you was going to say I'd never even heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger. For a moment.
Mhm.
It's just making me laugh. But yeah, the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger could be in the MCU, that's hilarious. Isn't it?
Yeah.
And we know that from the end of Iron Man 2, like Tony was talking about in the beginning of that film, that other nations were trying to build Iron Man suits. So I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, they
The
could,
beginning.
yeah, the very beginning during the hearing with Congress. So like, you know, and that kind of plays out through this film in Iron Man 2, where, you know, like a Russian guy build the Iron Man-esque suit using arc reactor technology and then shows up. So I mean, you could even have Crimson Dynamo make an appearance building his tech off of Whiplash's stuff in the MCU and
Like a
continue that.
reverse type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, just like another, like, I'm Whiplash 2.0, but I'm called Crimson Dynamo. And they've already dropped the name for Crimson Dynamo in Black Widow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, it's almost like teased almost. Like, don't just tease us, give it to us, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to think what his nationality was to make sure he was KGB,
mhm.
was team
If he was-
affiliation, so he had to be Soviet then, because he
If
was
he was
Soviet
KGB,
Super
he'd
Soldiers,
be
yeah.
KGB.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Secret Defenders, and he was part of War Machine comics too as well. He was actually in a War Machine comic.
Mhm.
So, and, so yeah, we'll see about that one.
Mhm.
Moving on, Nate Moore, producer of MCU, talked about Telecon strength, which is this is a good answer he did here. Are they sort of super soldier esque? I'm a bit of a nerd, so I used to play Marvel Heroes role playing game, and you're like, wait, do they have body armor? Do they have a 10? But no, we see them as sort of a super soldier level, partially because they live underwater. So they're a bit tougher, their skin's a bit tougher, their bones probably are lighter, but their muscle density is increased. So they are stronger than humans, certainly, and able to withstand Okoye's otherwise killing strokes, much to her frustration, which I think makes them incredibly formidable. So if and when we see them again, I think whoever comes across them might be in some trouble. So it does sound like, you know, they do have. We saw them take bullet shots too at times. Also, I think the only things that really hurt them was like actual heavier artillery or even Wakandan vibranium tech is what hurt them. So we definitely know they are formidable, and I do agree that we are going to see them again, probably in some kind of conflict with Wakanda, and that's when we'll see them kind of be shown to the world. Besides Wakanda.
Which I mean, like, I don't
Yeah.
think it's like ridiculous for them to be so like super strong, because like
Yep.
they can withstand the pressure at the bottom of the
Yep,
ocean.
the depths of
you
the
know?
ocean.
Like they come to the surface, if they can withstand that, they're gonna be like nearly unstoppable.
Yep.
Like, you know, in comparison. So
So I wonder when we'll see them again. Will it be Thunderbolts or will it be Wakanda 3? I'm still betting on Wakanda 3. I think Thunderbolts will set up Black Panther 3. Wakanda 3. I think Thunderbolts will set up even more Black Panther 3 in some kind of siege role that Andy has said type thing.
mhm. The only thing I'm
Yeah, I mean-
confused about is how we get to Sentry there in Thunderbolts with Wakanda involved. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that seems like if they actually do, there's been a couple things talked about on both sides there. Seems like it. it's a
Yeah,
lot.
I can see Thunderbolts playing this is where we get introduced to Sentry. We know that there's been other experiments going on in Canada, and maybe
Mhm.
Valve's been keeping tabs on that, and that's how they kind of, you know, come across Sentry. With the rumors of the Savage Land also being in Thunderbolts and looking for anti-metal, maybe
Mhm.
he freaks out, and you know, once he becomes Sentry and kind of goes to Savage Land, is down there just, you know, going apeshit or doing whatever. And that's when the Thunderbolts get sent in to kind of rein him back in, or take him out, along with looking for anti-metal. I think is what that could be like, and we definitely seen a couple of the Thunderbolts team that is announced being killed in that role, but maybe them reining him back in to be an ally for them once they kind of, because he, you know, the experiments, him going crazy, them kind of reining him back in, and we see a showdown possibly between Sentry, Namor, whoever the Black Panther is in Black Panther 3. That would be an interesting fight, I think.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see Namor fight against Sentry. I think that'd be
Yeah.
kinda cool to see happen. You know.
You know, and Namor coming in and out of water, I think would be possibly some way to be pacifying or almost a weakness for Sentry, possibly in the MCU. You know,
Mhm.
in doing that, kind of like the whole thing with what's the movie with Bruce Willis, Unbreakable, right? His
Mhm.
only weakness was water. Maybe
Mhm.
they kind of play it like that, where that could be some kind of, or not having oxygen or something is Sentry's weakness possibly, and that would be a pretty cool fight with him and Namor. And then you add, you know, a Black Panther into the mix with some of that technology. There could be some, you know, ways to do that. That'd be a pretty cool fight.
Imagine Namor gets him in the ocean and Sentry's about to break free and all the Atlanteans jump him and just
Yeah.
start like dragging him down to the
Down
bottom
to
of
the
the
depths.
ocean. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know, because they're all so strong. Like you get 20 of them pulling Sentry down, he's gonna be like, oh, like, you know, suddenly I gotta fight this, you know? So he's just swinging at people underwater and stuff and getting drugged down. That'd be a
Yep.
cool scene. Like,
Imagine seeing a scene where you got to see, and then you've got all these Talokans trying to pull him down, and he's trying to fly off.
Yep.
And they're all trying to pull it out. It's like a net,
Yeah, they're all just, like
blue
climbing up each
body.
other to trying to kind of like
Yeah.
build like a
and he's shooting off. Yeah,
almost like that 300 phalanx they did, where they all kind of came together and did that shield type thing, the way they fought.
yeah,
Think of that
Mhm.
coming out of the water to grab Sentry. That'd be kind of cool. That'd be a really
Yeah.
cool scene.
Mhm.
So
yeah.
next thing, rumor. Marvel was reportedly considering streamlining some of the Fox X-Men into the MCU following Avengers: Secret Wars. So
Well, after following it,
yeah, following, which I'm just like, why would they do that unless they're going to bring some
Yeah.
of them back? So yeah, I don't know about that
Yeah.
rumor.
so Kang
Yeah.
Dynasty comes after Secret Wars, right?
No, Dynasty.
Oh,
and
it's
Secret Wars.
before Secret
Yep.
Wars. Okay. Huh. That is weird.
yeah, that is weird, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's-
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking before Secret Wars kind of makes sense, but after,
Mhm.
if you think what the point of Secret Wars, or what we're all thinking the point of Secret Wars is to unify it into one story again,
Mhm.
kind of that would then insinuate that they're looking at keeping those people in. Maybe they are, I don't know.
Mhm.
Depends what they mean by the older ones. Are they talking about Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, or are they talking about, you know, James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender? Because if, you know, don't get me wrong, I like Stewart and McKellen, but they're getting on a bit.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, like, I love Ian McKellen, but he's got to be 80 years old, you know, at least, like,
Yeah.
or somewhere in there. So I just
Yeah,
don't think that
Say
he'll.
older.
Yeah, I don't think he'll want to play Magneto for the next 10 years. You know? Like,
No.
so.
Ghost Rider news. Here you go, Alex.
Mm,
Um,
oh no.
this is a rumor still. A project in development for Disney Plus. This will be Johnny Blaze version of the writer with Danny Ketch in the project, but not becoming the writer yet. No word on Robbie Reyes. Blaze will acquire his powers from Mephisto. The supernatural lore that Work by Night introduced will connect to Ghost Rider. Midnight Suns being set up in the MCU. It does not say if this is a show or a special presentation, but it's just a Ghost Rider rumor.
So
Oh.
you said that it'll start with Danny Ketch not having his Ghost Rider.
Yeah, so Johnny Blaze will be the writer. Mephisto, he gets powers from Mephisto. Ketch will be in the series or in the project, but not becoming the writer yet.
Ooh, so it's almost kind
May-
of like a Spirits of Vengeance thing kind of going on. Like,
Yeah,
okay.
or maybe like a young Ketch, maybe just kind of tease them and not,
Mhm.
set up for the future type thing. So
Nice.
Interesting.
sorry, my wife is blowing me up. Real quick. Sorry.
Ian McKellen's 83 and Patrick Stewart's 82.
Yeah.
Wow. Which is crazy. Patrick Stewart did not look 82 years old in
So-
Multiverse of Madness.
What if
You
these
know.
Fox X-Men are not those ones, but the other younger X-Men
Yeah.
we saw in the newer ones?
So
Mhm.
Fassbender, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Sophie Turner.
Yeah.
Nicholas Holtz, I think, who played Beast, was it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe those ones are the ones they're referring to. I actually like the actress who played Storm. So
Mhm.
I didn't mind any of those ones. To be honest, I've never really disliked much of the casting for the X-Men, whether it be in the, you know, the old ones or the new ones. Saying old ones, I feel really old now when I keep saying old ones. They weren't that long ago. They didn't seem like they were that long ago. But in those ones or in the first class versions, I can't really. There's probably a few that I would have had somebody different, but I don't think anything has been bad.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think Colossus has been underutilized,
Yeah, definitely.
just generally speaking.
Which I think that's why we saw him in Deadpool, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Was kind of like he was just kind of like a character that they didn't really use and they probably didn't really know what to do with. So Deadpool was like, hey, can we put him in here? And they were like, sure, do whatever you want with him,
Yeah.
And the actor from the X-Men movies, I said he'd come back as well as a
Mhm.
Colossus role. So
Oh yeah. And I think we've not seen Cyclops properly yet, and I think he if done properly, he would be a great character because he's such a douche that he should be such a great character on screen to see.
Mhm.
you know who'd be a good Cyclops, depending on how they want age range. The Dennis from It's Always Sunny.
Oh, I don't know him.
I can't remember his real name, but he
Oh,
plays a douche in that
Glenn
show.
Howard.
Yeah,
Is it
Glenn
Glenn?
Howard's in. Everyone that keeps
Yeah.
saying he should be Reed Richards. I think depending on what age they go with, he would be a great Scott Summers Cyclops.
Mhm. I feel like he'd
'Cause-
be a good villain.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it depends on what they do. Like, I would love to see something. I don't think it'll ever happen, like the Phoenix Five in the MCU, where like the Phoenix Force is split across like 5 people, and Cyclops is one of the
Yep.
5 that gets the Phoenix Force, and I think he kills Professor Xavier in that too.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And that would just be like mind blowing
Yeah.
to see something like that. And that would be a cool way of doing something different with the Phoenix. That way we don't have to get the same repackaged Phoenix story that we get with Jean Grey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just skip
Yeah,
that Phoenix story completely.
Yeah, they could do that too,
Yeah.
I really liked that because that was the Avengers versus X-Men sort of
Mhm.
the reason that all started, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I really liked that whole the Phoenix Five, and yeah, that was cool.
Mhm.
Nate Moore did talk more about how they choose directors or what they look for in directors. I think the things we look for, there are 2 things I think in my experience has been true. We look for filmmakers who have at least done something exceptional once, right? Because making a movie is hard, and sometimes a movie that someone is really invested in doesn't come together for a lot of reasons that are in their control or out of their control. But they have shown excellence, but have they shown excellence? And they are passionate about making the movie that we want to make. So it seems like they have to have one movie that kind of shows Marvel that they can do it, and then they have to be passionate about it, and it can kind of fit into what the Marvel wants to do.
Mhm.
So it's interesting when you start seeing that they come on with these newer directors or directors who have done some indie stuff or other things. It's not how big the movie was, but how they perceive the movie is my interpretation of what Nate Moore said.
Mhm. Interesting.
Go ahead. Oh, I thought you said that. Okay. Deadpool news. TVA will probably play a major role. It also seems like Miss Minutes is going to be in the film as well. Wasn't it Tara Strong? I think her name is.
Mhm.
It sounds like she's going to be in the film. So it does probably sound like that. Ryan Reynolds, maybe what he did at the end of Deadpool 2 gets on the radar of the TVA. And they kind of go after him, and then he kind of goes through and causes all kinds of chaos, probably, is my guess, what we're going to see.
I mean, let's just say a certain baby that he went back in time to kill was born in the year of 1889. So, he went back and he was changing some events way, way long ago. So,
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
I'm,
also...
I'm-
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say I'm still convinced that we're seeing Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but just
It
with
also-
him killing loads of people as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's also rumored, too, that Josh Brolin will be back as Cable. So... Ryan Reynolds has rewatched Logan ahead of the production of Deadpool 3. He basically said Logan takes place in 2029, totally separate thing. Logan died in Logan, not touching that. So obviously this will be before the events of Logan for his film. In between the last the Wolverine movie.
Mhm.
So between the Wolverine and Logan is when that film will take place.
Which it's crazy because they almost make you believe that in Logan, mutants are almost like extinct, almost
Yeah.
because they're being wiped out almost. So
Was it ever confirmed anywhere that Logan was the same universe as all the other X-Men movies that we saw with Hugh Jackman in? Because it always felt to me that it wasn't in that universe.
It just felt like a futuristic version of, because think about it, because actually, hold on, the Wolverine wouldn't be the latest Wolverine showing. It would be Days of Futures Past would be the latest one, because at the end of the Wolverine is when they kind of recruit him to come back. Him, Professor X and Magneto at the airport when he comes back. So his latest showing would be the last newer X-Men film. Would be his last showing as that, where they changed the future. So that still could be in the same universe, but it's just years ahead, because in that universe, the X-Men keep becoming extinct because the Sentinels were killing them all off.
and I think Logan takes place in like 2029, right? So
2029.
I mean, what are we in 2025 or something
Mhm.
in the MCU right now? So I mean, that could be kind of little alternate universe way down the road,
Yeah, maybe. I just always had the impression that it was just a totally separate story away from anything else, and it wasn't supposed to be the end of that set of stories. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it just felt like the end of a Logan story,
Okay.
and not necessarily the end of the story that we'd seen Wolverine go through in the X-Men or Days of Future Past or anything like that. It seemed like a dystopian future. It seemed more like it's more like Wastelanders, that kind of sort of thing, really, where it was a separate thing. But regardless, that's kind of what gets when Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman said, "Oh yeah, that happens in 20. We're not touching that." It was almost like, leave that over there.
Yep.
That's its own piece. That's a great movie. Let's not disturb that. Let's just carry on from over here somewhere.
Spider-Man 4. So we know that Spider-Man 4 appears to be happening, and possibly from our last news episode that Alex and I, that it looks like they're trying to fast track that for 2024, based on what they're doing with that franchise. But the new rumor says that they're going to bring back Michael Mando in an all new comic accurate Scorpion suit as Mac Gargan. So it sounds like they might close that loop from the Homecoming, to where they kind of just teased us and then never came back to it.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that, because that's a really outrageous suit, isn't it? With a really outrageous, it's akin to sort of Dr. Octopus, isn't it? With like the sort of the big trailing arms and the big, he's going to have the towel. So yeah, I'd be interested to see.
But he's actually more of a Scorpion looking than Doc, because Doc was more machine, and I think.
Oh
with
yeah,
Mac-
yeah.
Yeah, he's more of an actual
It's more
Scorpion.
organic, does
Looks more like Lizard. In
Yeah.
that sense. Yep. So we'll see how they do that in that movie. One thing I forgot to report on Covenant of Chaos, which I got my notes mixed up here. Wednesday director Ganja Montero has signed on to direct Agatha Covenant of Chaos, at least one
Okay.
episode. So I forgot to put that in the Agatha notes.
Cool.
The one big rumor, though, I kind of say, okay, one more thing before I get to the big rumor. Wonder Man is eyeing a late 2023 release.
Hmm.
So,
Okay.
I don't know a great deal about Wonder Man. I've only really read him when he's sort of shown up in sort of crossovers and things like that. So I don't really know a great deal about him. I mean, I know who he is and I know what his powers are and where he comes from, but I don't really know a great deal about him. So it's not something I'm knowledgeable about. So I'm interested to see who he is, really.
I'm the same way. I'm probably going to go read some more stuff, Wonder Man centric, instead of just crossover stuff. So,
Yeah.
But the big rumor is Kang Dynasty Secret Wars. This is the big rumor here. According to the rumor, He Who Remains won't have ascended to the lofty station quite yet in Kang Dynasty, and will still go by Nathaniel Richards. What's even more interesting is that Richards will ultimately join the Avengers in the fight against King the Conqueror. Their alliance will continue into Avengers Secret Wars, where he and the Avengers will collect heroes from across the multiverse to take on Kang. According to the theory, once Kang is defeated, Nathaniel will go on to become He Who Remains and create the TVA in order to oversee the sacred timeline, just as seen in the season 1 of Loki. That would mean that the story that He Who Remains tells Loki and Sylvie about the peace between realities erupting into an all-out war was only in the past from his perspective, and that was already describing the events of Avengers Secret Wars to fans before they would ever see the film. So it's that would be interesting if they actually do. So this is a rumor, but if they actually do this, that would be like in plain sight type of level stuff, right? Because he said that, and he said if you kill me, you're not gonna like my variants, in doing that whole cycle again to where he ends up right back in that position.
Yeah, I quite like that. I watched a comedy show yesterday where the comedian sort of at the end he does like it's not even a reveal. You don't even realize it's a reveal, but he does this thing, and then he does the reveal, and he's been doing this the whole way through the show, but you just didn't know that that's what he was doing. So how cool would that be?
Yeah.
That they've spoiled Secret Wars in 6 years before, or
in 2020.
yeah, like 5 years before it was released.
I mean, it's a rumor, but it totally makes sense because he basically said, he basically said it, and they're gonna get back to that point at some point, and so I'm interested to see what happens in Loki season 2 because of this, and then how that leads into the rest, and then basically back,
Big loop.
that whole circle. Yep.
Yeah, it's big look. And again, I know Alex has read Only Myself Left to Conquer.
Mm-hmm.
That one that is that big.
Yeah,
Did
it's like
you ever
one
finish
big
it?
loop. I don't know if I did or not. I don't know.
I'm sure you said you did finish it.
I think I did. I'm trying to remember how it ends.
Basically, it's a big loop. It just comes right to the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of gives you that inclination, like in the second and third issue, that because that's kind of like Kang's story is everything's like always a big loop, kind of like him never disappearing. He's always going to pop up somewhere because like he's always going to exist almost. He's like a multiversal constant almost, but yeah, I think it's really interesting too. I just want to say about the multiverse war thing, because if they do something like that, it's almost like that episode of Futurama where it's like the universe begins and ends and it restarts all over again. And it's the exact same universe. And it's like almost like it's like just predestined to always be the same universe playing out over and over and over.
Yeah, we see things on such a small scale.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go to back to Endgame and Doctor Strange seeing 14,605,000 outcomes, and it's like, but would it have mattered really? Like which one? Like in the long run, like in the long game, in the game of the whole entire universe forever, would it have really mattered which one they ended up? Do you know what I mean? Like well, I love seeing those things. Like if you put the whole of human history on a year's calendar, or the whole of the world's history, the universe's history on a calendar, humans have been around for like 1 minute on January the 31st or on December the 31st. We've been around for such a small amount of time. So does it ever really matter?
Mm-hmm.
Basically Groundhog Day. From Here Remains.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So are we wrapping up there? Are we pretty much done? Have we caught up?
That's
it.
We are
out. That's good. No, that's decent. That's been a good little chat today. So we're waiting to do another AUA, another Ask Us Anything. We're going to promote that a little bit. Maybe we'll do that next week. And then we'll have maybe a week off for Christmas, and then we'll be back in the new year. We'll get some new guests on. We'll get some new subjects to be talking about, and it won't be long before we have a new show. I'm sure of it. So it's been a pleasure talking to you guys again. It's been good to get back to doing this. It's something that we all like doing. I've enjoyed myself tonight.
Excellent as always.
Excellent. We'll see you next time. Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.
Why don't you tell them about the time we faced